$8,000 houses in Europe? Not a scam. Not some clickbait villa that turns out to be a pile of stones and a donkey shed. These are real towns across Portugal, once full of life, now turning eerily quiet as the 2025 housing crisis empties them out. You'll see villages swallowed by dam, mountain hideouts you can't even drive to, and manors cheaper than a Lisbon parking spot. Sounds like paradise, until you realize why everyone left. Some drowned, some dried out, some just gave up. And trust me, you're not ready for what's next. By the end, you'll either pack your bags or wonder what's wrong with them. Let's break it down. Foz do Aurelio, the beach town draining out. Imagine buying a beach house with an ocean view for under $40,000. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, in Foz do Aurelio, that dream comes with a haunting silence. Once the go-to summer escape for Lisbon families, this seaside village near Caldas da Rainha now feels more like a movie set after the crew packed up. The lagoon still glitters under the sun, and the boardwalk stretches for miles. But the surf cafes are cracked, the patios are empty, and the only regulars are the seagulls, who apparently now hold staff meetings to discuss the lack of fries. Locals say things started slipping after 2020. Tourism tanked, prices dipped, and the younger crowd drifted to bigger cities chasing jobs that actually pay rent. Property here is dirt cheap, but maintaining a salty, oceanfront house costs more than your first car. Come winter, the sea fog rolls in, shutters creak in the wind, and you start to wonder if you're living in a postcard or a ghost story. One resident joked, "It's beautiful, but no jobs unless you sell sunsets." If you think empty beaches are eerie, wait till you see the next one, built entirely on granite. Monsanto, the stone fortress nobody stays in. You walk through narrow cobblestone alleys, and every wall looks alive. That's because in Monsanto, the houses aren't just built on rocks, they're carved into them. Granite boulders the size of minivans literally hold up the roofs. Once crowned the most Portuguese village in Portugal, this mountain fortress now feels frozen in time and kind of empty. By day, it's a postcard. You've got castle ruins perched 2,000 feet up, goats chewing grass on stairways, and those perfect Instagram views of red rooftops melting into the hillside. But by night, silence. The population slipped below 100. Most of the lights you see are from Airbnbs nobody's rented since August. A local joked, "We have more cats than kids." And she's not wrong. There's no grocery store, no gas station, and the nearest parking spot's basically in another century. The Wi-Fi? Let's just say it bounces off the rocks and gives up halfway through a YouTube ad. Still, homes here go for under $35,000 if you don't mind your kitchen sharing a wall with a 10-ton boulder. At sunset, the stone glows orange, the air hums with echoes, and you realize the village isn't dying, it's quietly turning to legend. From a village carved into granite, we're heading to the edge of the map, where Portugal ends, and time forgot to follow. Barça d'Alva, the forgotten border town. Barça d'Alva sits at the very edge of Portugal, where the Douro River snakes towards Spain and cell signal gives up halfway there. The streets still look like a painting. Whitewashed houses, orange rooftops, olive trees, but the people? Almost gone. This used to be a lively stop for wine traders and train travelers heading east. When the railway shut down in the 80s, the noise died too. The station's now covered in ivy, its clock forever stuck at 3:12. Locals like to say, "We used to hear trains, now just goats." A small house here sells for under $20,000, and it might even come with a view of Spain across the river. Sounds dreamy until you realize there's no grocery, no gas, and no jobs. The old port is crumbling, the boats are gone, and the loudest thing in town is the church bell echoing off empty hills. Barça d'Alva feels like it's been paused, beautiful, still, and waiting for someone to hit play again. From the edge of Portugal, our next ghost town isn't forgotten, it's fading in plain sight. Monsaraz, the hilltop castle that outlived its people. Perched high above the plains of Alentejo, Monsaraz looks like it was carved straight from a medieval dream. Whitewashed houses, cobblestone lanes, and a stone castle that once guarded Portugal's borders. From the top, you can see miles of rolling vineyards and the glittering Alcava Reservoir, Europe's largest artificial lake. It's beautiful, in that too quiet to be real kind of way. The village barely has 700 residents and most are retirees or weekenders. The younger crowd, long gone to Evora or Lisbon chasing work. The baker opens when he feels like it and the local tavern closes when the last glass of wine runs dry. You can buy a centuries-old stone house here for around $30,000, complete with thick walls, tiny doors, and a medieval courtyard that could star in a fantasy movie. But behind the postcard charm lies the truth. Monsaraz is fading. Tourists flood in for the views, then vanish by sunset, leaving the alleys echoing with nothing but wind. Locals joke, even the ghosts take siesta here. And while Montserrat sleeps under the stars, somewhere nearby, a whole town is frozen in time. Anta on Trazus Monte. The village time froze. You don't buy a house in Anta, you buy a time capsule. Here in the rugged hills of Trás-os-Montes, you can find stone cottages for under $10,000, most built before color TV existed. The streets are so narrow you could shake hands with your neighbor through the window, and the only sound most mornings is the echo of your own footsteps. Anta sits deep in Portugal's interior, a place where winters bite hard and life moves at the speed of a wood-burning stove. The village has fewer than 50 residents, mostly grandparents who remember when the post office was still open. Schools are gone, the doctor visits once a week, and half the homes are empty, some with vines crawling right through the doorways. One local said, "Time stands still here, so does the Wi-Fi." He's not joking. You'll get better signal from the next century. Mail comes faster on donkeys, and the local cafe hasn't changed its menu since 1962. But when the fog rolls in and smoke drifts from the chimneys, it feels frozen in the most hauntingly beautiful way. Still, that's nothing compared to the next village, because the next one didn't survive the flood. Aldea de Luz, the village that drowned. Most ghost towns fade slowly. This one drowned overnight. Aldea de Luz, Village of Light, was sacrificed in 2002 to make way for the massive Alcueva Dam, now Europe's largest artificial lake. The old town sits underwater, its streets, homes, and the church bell tower buried beneath the waves. Locals were moved to a new village nearby, neat and modern, maybe too modern. It's the same Luz in name only. You can still buy houses here for under $40,000, but they feel more like museum exhibits than homes. The village even has a museum of the submerged town where people visit to see photos of what they lost. The sidewalks are spotless, the plaza's empty, and every sunset glows on still water that hides a history. One resident put it bluntly, "Our home is underwater, and our hearts stayed there." These days, the only thing booming is the echo of your footsteps. Want to buy lakefront property? Sure, just bring scuba gear. It's the best underwater real estate in Portugal. But if drowning was tragic, wait till you hear about a place that sank on purpose. That's right, our next town stop was built to disappear. Vilarinho das Furnas, the ghost beneath the waves. Some ghost towns haunt valleys. This one haunts a lake. Vilarinho das Furnas, tucked in Portugal's Minho region, was once a tight-knit farming village until it was flooded in 1971 to build a hydroelectric dam. Over 300 residents packed up watching their stone homes, chapel, and plaza sink beneath the rising green water. Now, whenever drought hits and the water level drops, the ruins rise again. Rooftops, walls, even cobblestones peeking through the surface like bones. Locals call it the Atlantis of Portugal, and honestly, they're not wrong. It's beautiful, eerie, and quiet in a way that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. You can buy nearby properties for under $35,000 with lake views that are postcard perfect, until you remember there's a whole village right under your kayak. One guy joked, "Best neighborhood, fish for neighbors, no HOA." And he's right, it's peaceful if you don't mind sharing the backyard with carp and ghosts. When the wind shifts just right, old church bells are said to echo through the valley. Whether that's true or just legend, no one stays long enough to find out. Because the next place doesn't just whisper history, it stands guard over it. Marvão, the fortress at the edge of Portugal. If castles could sigh, Marvão would. Sitting high on a granite ridge near the Spanish border, this medieval fortress village once guarded Portugal from invaders. Now, it's guarding memories. Its population has dropped below 2,600, and every year a few more doors close for good. Walking through Marvão feels like stepping into a history book that no one checks out anymore. The view alone could sell postcards. Terracotta roofs, olive groves, and plains stretching all the way to Spain. You can actually buy a centuries-old stone house here for $25,000 to $40,000, sometimes with a little garden or even a piece of the old wall. It's cheap, quiet, and beautiful, but also lonely. The jobs dried up when the younger generation left for Lisbon and Porto, chasing paychecks instead of sunsets. The old stayed behind, then slowly faded too. The weather doesn't make it easier. Summers can cook the stone streets, and winters bring icy winds that seem to whistle through every crack in the castle walls. Fog rolls over the rooftops like a ghostly tide. And at night, the wind howls so loud it feels like the fortress itself is remembering its past. The town still has everything that once made it matter. Narrow medieval alleys, an ancient church, and walls built by King Dinis in the 13th century. But these days, the only things crossing the border are tourists and tumbleweeds. The cafes close early, the locals joke that their neighbors are mostly statues, and the once busy market square now hosts more pigeons than people. Still, Marvão stands proud. It's one of the most beautiful towns in Portugal, a frozen fortress that refuses to fall. The next place? You'll need hiking boots, and maybe a map from the 1800s to find it. Drave, the village with no road. Deep in the Serra da Freita Mountains, where phone signals die and Google Maps gives up, lies Drave, Portugal's village with no road. You can't drive here. You park your car miles away, tighten your boots, and hike nearly 2 miles through rocky trails just to find it. Once a self-sufficient mountain hamlet of shepherds and stonemasons, Drave slowly emptied out after the 1970s. By the early 2000s, the last residents packed up and left, leaving only the wind to move through the cobblestone streets. The village sits between 2 mountain streams, surrounded by steep granite peaks and waterfalls. It looks frozen in time. Stone cottages with caved-in roofs, wells choked with moss, and an old chapel still standing like it's waiting for the next Sunday service. If you wanted, you could buy a whole house here for less than $10,000. Sounds like a deal, until you realize you'll have to carry the roof tiles in by hand. There's no electricity, no running water, no internet, unless you count the goats gossiping nearby. Today, the only signs of life are hikers and scouts who treat the place like a living museum. They camp among the ruins, light bonfires, and watch the Milky Way blaze over the valley. Something city folks forgot was even possible. One former resident once said, "We left because life left first." It's hard to argue with that. When the young moved to Porto and Lisbon chasing jobs, the old stayed behind until the silence grew too heavy. At night, Drave feels almost sacred. The moonlight paints the mountains silver, the stream murmurs below, and for a moment you can imagine what it felt like when smoke still rose from chimneys. So, if you're dreaming of true off-grid life, Drave's waiting. Just bring hiking boots, canned food, and a backup plan for winter. And if you think hiking to your house is tough, the next one, the #1 spot in our list, is a ghost town you can actually buy. Herdade do Pereiro, a ghost town for sale. You ever scroll through Zillow and think, man, I wish I could just buy an entire town? Well, here's your chance. Herdade do Pereiro, tucked deep in the dry hills of Alentejo near the Spanish border, is literally for sale. Not a farmhouse, not a plot. The whole town. Roads, buildings, empty swimming pool. Yours for under $430,000. That's less than a 1-bedroom condo in Miami. It was supposed to be a luxury eco-resort back in the early 2000s. Investors poured in money, built the villas, paved the roads, and then vanished faster than a politician's promise. The buildings still stand, all stone walls and sun-bleached tiles. But the only guests now are lizards and the occasional curious real estate agent with a drone. You walk through cracked patios, peek inside abandoned kitchens with stoves that never cooked a meal. There's a chapel that hasn't heard a prayer in decades, and a pool that hasn't seen water since the euro was new. The silence here? You could sell it by the acre. Local neighbors whisper it once sat on an old smuggling route between Portugal and Spain, back when the border meant more than a highway sign. Now, it's a bureaucratic limbo. The paperwork to buy it is like solving a Rubik's Cube in Portuguese while blindfolded. Still, it's weirdly beautiful. You can almost see the dream it once was. Whitewashed walls glowing at sunset, olive trees stretching forever, the hum of summer cicadas. Then reality hits. No residents, no shops, no Wi-Fi. You could own an entire zip code, but good luck getting groceries. As one ex-resident joked, you could own a town, bo, if you can resurrect it. So yeah, if you've ever wanted to brag, I own a ghost town in Portugal, this is your sign. Portugal's ghost towns are the mirror image of its housing crisis. Cheap, beautiful, but lonely. You can buy a village for the price of a car, but what you'll really get is silence, cracked tiles, and a postcard from the past. These places aren't dying, they're waiting for new stories, new dreamers, maybe even someone crazy enough to bring life back to them. So would you live in a village where ghosts outnumber people? Like this video if you've ever searched Cheap House Europe No Catch. Subscribe, this channel's your escape plan.